And joining us now to talk more about Cardinal Dolan's replacement is Father Thomas Massaro from Fordham University. Good morning, Father.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Natalie.
Well, so many people waking up today trying to learn what they can about Bishop Hicks. Who is he? We know he's from Illinois, where Pope Leo was also born and raised. So what else can you tell us about him?
I'm very impressed by what I've been able to read about his life just in the few hours since this appointment. So Ronald Hicks grew up in the southern suburbs of Chicago, much like a certain man in Rome, Pope Leo XIV. So he appointed a man who shares his same home area. He was ordained by Cardinal Bernardine in Chicago back in 1994, who was a very noted churchman. And also he served with Cardinal Supage of Chicago, who named him an auxiliary bishop of Chicago. And then he went to Joliet, Illinois. We in New York don't often hear about Joliet, Illinois. It's a small diocese just south of Chicago. And it was really wonderful that he had 5 years of serving as a bishop there. I describe this as getting training to head for the much larger venue of New York, which of course is the most prominent archdiocese in our country. So I would just say he's well trained. Also, I would also add that he spent several years in El Salvador and also some time in Mexico. So working in Hispanic ministries. He's fluent in Spanish, which will be a wonderful asset here in New York City. Many of the Catholics in New York City are of Hispanic origin.
Yes, from Joliet to New York, many stops in between. The bishop leading more than 2 million New York Catholics, so a big job, an important job. What does this move signal as far as Pope Leo's transition to the papacy?
Yes, well, it's kind of interesting that Pope Leo spent 2 years, just before he became Pope, as the head of the Vatican office for bishops. This means the group that selects bishops, offers candidates to, back then it was Pope Francis, who did the actual appointment. So Leo knows from his time in that office, he knows the process, he knows the profiles, how to read a resume of a bishop candidate, and he had a very good reputation for making smart appointments, men that would fit the new jobs, the new dioceses to which they were appointed. So we can be pretty sure that the selection of Bishop Hicks to be the Archbishop of New York, and perhaps someday a cardinal, that often is an honorific that comes later, was a very carefully decided decision, and one that he shows a lot of promise, his personal qualities. We're always looking for a leader of an archdiocese who's a spiritual leader, as well as an administrator and manager of personnel and finances. So I would just say this is a man with the profile of Bishop Hicks that is a very promising profile with good preparation.
A promising profile, but these are big shoes to fill. Cardinal Dolan, loved by Catholics and non-Catholics alike. How would you summarize Cardinal Dolan's time as Archbishop of New York? What do you think he'll be most remembered for?
Well, I recall very much when he was appointed from Milwaukee, where he was the head of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. And then in 2009, he came to New York. And I talked to people back in Milwaukee who absolutely loved him. In fact, when they heard that I was from New York, they said to me, "Oh, you're stealing our favorite Archbishop from Milwaukee," being rooted to New York. Sure, he had a great reception here in New York. He's a larger-than-life figure. I think even in retirement, Cardinal Dolan will continue to cut a large figure. He's very good with media. He's very outspoken and friendly. He gives giant bear hugs to anybody he meets, so he's friendly. Now, will the new, once he's assumes the Archbishop role and the installation is February 6th, will Ronald Hicks be as personable and outgoing as Cardinal Dolan? There's no way to know. By all accounts, he's a little bit more quiet, and he's been praised by other bishops as a very good listener. So I look forward, first of all, to meeting him when the time comes, but to have a bishop who's very attuned, as Pope Francis was, as Pope Leo is, to being a very good ear for the spiritual needs of the flock that he shepherds.
Well, I'm sure he will bring his own unique new energy to the role. Father Thomas Massaro from Fordham University, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank Thank you, Natalie.
And make sure to stay with us for continuing coverage of this breaking news right here on CBS News New York.